All right, what about in U.S. history? What are some of our worst mass wasting events? Let's take a look. So, the largest in volume ever recorded in the U.S. happened at Mount St. Helens during its eruption. The second largest volume happened in Bingham Canyon, Utah. The third largest happened at Grovon. I had to look how to pronounce that. Grovon, Wyoming. It's French, I think. That was the third largest volume. The costliest happened in Thistle, Utah. The second deadliest happened at La Conchita in California. And the deadliest happened in Oso, Washington. And that last one you will definitely be looking at in your assignment this week. So the largest in volume mass wasting event happened at Mount St. Helens. Remember that at Mount St. Helens, an earthquake triggered the landslide, and then the landslide, all that material moving off of Mount St. Helens, was basically like popping the top on a shooken up soda bottle. So when all that landslide material, which was this wasn't the eruption, this is a giant landslide because of an earthquake. Once all that material that had been holding all that volcanic pressure in was gone, that's when it erupted. So it was the largest mass wasting event in U.S. history, and that was due to an earthquake. There were, the landslide caused also debris flows. There was lahars in the area because of the mixture of the volcanic activity as well, but it resulted in the deaths of dozens of people. There were 57 fatalities associated with the eruption, which also included the mass wasting events, but flood and ash as well. Specific to those dead, autopsies showed that most of the people killed in the eruption likely died from asphyxiation after inhaling hot ash, not necessarily the mass wasting event. However, the volume of material that slid, this was a very large landslide, the volume of material that did slide was 2.3 billion cubic meters. You'll see just how much that is compared to some of the second and third largest landslides or mass wasting events in U.S. history. So slide material was deposited up to 17 miles down the North Fork Toutle River Valley. So that's how far this slide material and debris flow material made its way to. So this is kind of the aftermath after the eruption and landslide, and everything is just covered, but all of this is just landslide material. So the second largest mass wasting event was in Bingham County in Utah in 2013. This is actually within a mine. So this is actually caught on tape, the actual resulting kind of, it looks like a rotational landslide to me. It looks like there's some sort of down and out and then kind of flowing out to it. So Bingham Canyon, just outside of Salt Lake City, and this was at the Kennecott Copper Mine, which is the largest man-made excavation and deepest open pit mine in the world. And remember, what do we need for landslides? Well, we need steep slopes. And mines are sometimes ridiculously steep. We don't usually find this in nature, because if we did, we would find a lot of, you'd guess it, landslides. There were sensors embedded in the mine walls to detect any stress in the rock, because mines are known for having these things, because if you build them too steep, they're going to fall in. So they had sensors and lasers perched on the rim to measure the position of hundreds of reflectors on the mine face. And so they can sense if any part of it would start to move. So not long before the slide, movement was measured at 2 inches per day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're in the bottom of a big hole, if anything around you is moving 2 inches, moving at all, you want to know, and you don't want to be there. So what you saw in that image was the second largest mass wasting event in modern U.S. history. The volume of material there, 55 million cubic meters, which, this is why the size of Mount St. Helens becomes important, that's only 2.4% of the amount of material that slid off of Mount St. Helens. It did register as a 2.5 or 2.4 magnitude earthquake on the Richter scale in nearby Salt Lake City. There was no injuries, no deaths, since the mine operators evacuated the site days earlier because they could sense it moving, so they knew something was going to happen. So they evacuated. But guess what? It happened in the very same mine in 2021. Go figure. Go figure. Now, this might not look big, but this is a giant excavating construction equipment. This is a giant crane with a big bucket on front of it. This little thing, this giant thing right here. So you can see like how big this hole really is and how big this landslide actually is. So yeah, it happened again. And then again in Groval, Wyoming, 1925, you can see this mass wasting event here. Happened on the northern end of Sheep Mountain, overlooks Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Very popular outdoor location. It happened because it was one of the wettest springs on record in the region. Go figure. Third largest landslide in terms of volume in modern U.S. history. 38 million cubic meters, which was only just 1.6% of Mount St. Helens. Just a little tiny thing. But what's interesting is the slide formed a dam that consequently burst, flooding the tiny village of Kelly, Wyoming, downstream a little bit, killing 6 people. There you have it. Now, the most costliest occurred in Thistle, Utah. So you can see this flow of earth material, damming up some stuff here, but also kind of coming into this area down here. So a lot of earth material. The reason this was the costliest mass wasting event in U.S. history, which was $200 to $400 million in 1983 in damages. Well, I'll get to that in a second. The volume of material, 15 million cubic meters, only 0.65% of Mount St. Helens. But the event caused, the reason why it's so costly, the event caused a lake 160 feet deep to form, and the flooding wiped out the town of Thistle. So going back, that lake wasn't there. That lake wasn't there. Because of this mass wasting event, it blocked a river, causing the river to flood up behind it, burying the town of Thistle. So the whole town is gone. Not only that, it also buried several important transportation routes, including highways and railroads. And so there was a number of railroads that had to be rerouted. So this is kind of a modern day look at where the earth material flowed to. So this was kind of the natural dam that was created. So just between this peak and between this peak, so down here, that's where that lake forms. That's where the town of Thistle was just flooded and no longer exists. Trains had to be rerouted, so you have to reroute a train, in this case causing it to go through a mountain. I'm assuming it went through that mountain pass before. Now they had to route it through the mountain. So yeah, so that's what made it the most costliest. The second most deadliest happened in La Conchita in California, right on the coast. So there's a very expensive neighborhood, but it right up against a steep slope of, looks like very loose material right on the coast. So this occurred in 1995, and then it happened again in 2005. In the same area, 10 years, one apart from one another. So again, here's the 1995 landslide. That didn't really do the amount of damage as the 2005 landslide did, because that creeped in. Even though it was smaller, it kind of creeped and flowed out into this area. So very, very expensive communities right on the ocean. So a lot of people want to live there. But if you look, built right up against a slope, very steep. On top, avocado orchard, avocado trees need a lot of water. So they're pumping a lot of water into these areas, soaking into the ground, plus with any other storm systems that might move in right off the coast. Guess what's going to happen? Landslides. But you can also see a landslide here, a landslide here, landslide here, the landslides over here. I mean, just not the smartest place to live. But guess what? People still do. People still live here. And guess what's still happening? Landslides. So in 1995, 9 houses were damaged and destroyed, but there was no injuries or deaths. To just go back to it, that 1995 landslide just kind of destroyed some houses kind of right along the edge, this back edge of the community. It was really that 2005 subsequent landslide in which 46 houses were damaged or destroyed and you had 10 deaths. There's only 0.2 million cubic meters. It's only 0.009% of Mount St. Helens. Not a lot of material, but enough to be the second deadliest in U.S. history. After the original 1995 landslide, there was a study done. It showed, go figure, you probably didn't need to be a scientist to figure this one out. It showed that landslides were common here. Oh, go figure. And if to completely stabilize the hill, it would cost about $150 million. Well, the community didn't go with that one. They went with some less costly strategies to save a bunch of money. Guess what? Didn't really work, because in 2005, the landslide showed that whatever they tried really didn't work. And the dumb thing is that this is still a highly desirable place to live, even now. And I'll show you. Now, property values dropped after each landslide, but they went right back up a few years later. So this is the most current look. I went on Zillow to see what's available. There's a few different properties that are available on Zillow. But first, so here's the community. So here's, again, the 95 landslide. That looks like it covered these houses here. And then the 2005 landslide that creeped into this area. And one of those properties is right next to it. On top of it, still growing those avocados. Still have all these other little landslide scars there. Guess what's going to happen again at some point? So let's take a look. So for $430,000, $799,000 and $1.7 million. Let's see what we can get. For $430,000, do you know what you get? Do you know which one of these you get? It's this. It's this empty lot. It's nothing. It's an empty lot. You get, for $430,000, you can buy that empty lot and park your RV there. That's what $430,000 costs here, right along the coast. There's the hill. Oh, you can see the scar from the landslides from 95 and 2005. Right there. $430,000 for just a plot. What about that other one that was $799,000? Right on the back end, right on the back edge of where the mountains come down and meet the houses. Let's see, what can you get? Oh, you can get this little house. You can get this little house. Oh, look. I see landslides up here that have occurred in the past. I wonder what's going to happen here in the future. I wonder. So this little shack, $730,000. And then, or $799,000, excuse me. And then, what about $1.7 million? What can that get me? Let's see here. Okay, so it can give me this house. Okay, that's not bad. Looks nice. It's still $1.7 million. Oh, wait. There's the scars from a mass wasting event that occurred in 2005 and 1995. Right there. So here's that house again. This is right from Zillow. This is the selling pictures they're showing you on Zillow. It doesn't take a scientist to figure this out, right? I hope it doesn't. But here it is, all right? Here's the scars from 1995 and 2005, and here's that 2005 landslide where it ended right here. Right next to this thing. There's still farming going on. There's still loose material here. It hasn't been stabilized. What's going to happen? Nothing good. So here is that $1.7 million house. The empty plot was right over in this area. And then that other little shack is, I think, right here. Or I think it's in this little gap right here between these two taller houses. Yes, I think it's in this gap right here. Sorry, there was a little glitch here. So let's go ahead and pause here. When we come back, I'll tell you about the most deadliest mass wasting event in U.S. history. at least in U.S. recorded history, which will actually serve as also your assignment for this unit. So we'll pause here, and I'll see you back here in just a second.